welcome back to Cooking with Ali. Today we're going to be learning about vinaigrettes. This is not dressings. This is not going to be a Caesar dressing or ranch dressing or a blue cheese dressing or a Thousand Island or French. That'll be in our next Cooking with Ali series. Today we're learning about vinaigrettes and how to emulsify them. And typically to make a vinaigrette, the ratio is usually 3 to 1. So 3 parts oil, 1 part acid. Now the acid could be a nice vinegar. The acid could be lemon juice, lime juice, orange juice, or even grapefruit juice for that matter. It depends on what you have lying around. Now, when looking to make a vinaigrette, I typically have red wine vinegar around, white wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar. Now, if I want to get a little more creative with my vinegars, I have a walnut champagne vinegar. I have an apple cider vinegar. I also have sherry vinegar. Now, if I wanted to, I could take, things around the refrigerator. Let's just say I had raspberries in the refrigerator. I take my white wine vinegar and I'd steep my raspberries in it. And that's just basically soaking some raspberries in the vinegar and letting it sit for a couple days. You could do blackberries, boysenberries if you wanted to, blueberries. You can take figs, you can take apples and put apples in the apple cider vinegar and make your own vinegars to make a very delicious vinaigrette. Again, it's a lot cheaper to make your own vinaigrettes at home. You probably won't have that much waste. In addition, you could use it for marinated salads. Like, let's just say you have leftover green beans, you make a nice green bean salad. You have tomatoes you can dice up with some buffalo mozzarella and marinate them too, and you have some leftover broccoli. You can use that in your salad. So you can make some kind of composed salad with the leftover vinaigrette that you have lying around. A lot of people buy all these fancy vinaigrettes, they store them in the refrigerator, and they sit there for about 6 months. The other mistake is, we buy either 2 types of vinegars. Now, you can buy a really expensive gourmet vinegar, and again, you get what you pay for. If your vinaigrette is going to taste that much better. You can buy a really cheap one, which is watered down, and they're usually, a little salt in it that you don't want. And you can buy middle ground. Now, again, I'm going to say I'm going to buy something a little bit more higher quality because I do want my vinaigrette to taste better. But if I'm just going to make that vinaigrette one time or use that vinegar one time in 6 months, you're wasting your money. So be careful. Don't go and buy the big gallons or half gallons. Just buy a little bit unless you're doing it all the time. Now, we're going to start off with making a nice vinaigrette with some red wine vinegar. And again, as I mentioned, 3 to 1. I typically don't always put 3 to 1. There's always the exception to the rule. I don't like that much oil in my vinaigrettes. I like to taste the boldness and the flavor of the vinegar in my vinaigrette. So typically I do about 2 to 1. It's 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1. So we're going to put probably a half a cup of vinegar in here. Now, if you wanted to, you could also mix your vinegars. So if I wanted to, I could mix my red wine vinegar with some balsamic vinegar. I like balsamic vinaigrette, and there's a lot of high quality balsamic vinegars out there, especially aged in barrels, different ways. So again, I threw my vinegars in there. I don't typically always add garlic to my vinaigrettes. And the reason is behind that is that if I want a nice sweeter flavor to it, because I'm going to add apples to my salad, I'm going to add candied pecans, I'm going to add dried cranberries, that sweetness and that flavor, I don't want that garlic flavor inside my salad because I have all that sugar in there. And the other thing is, I want a sweeter vinaigrette if I'm using arugula, kale, something that's actually a little bit more bitter, on the bitter side. So I want a sweeter vinaigrette. Now, it's up to you if you want it sweet or not. Now, when working with sweetness, and you're going to add, so balsamic is pretty sweet as it is, but if you want a little bit more sugar to it, you can add a couple of pinches of sugar. You can add maple syrup to it, especially if you're going to add chopped cooked bacon to your salad. Maple syrup would go great in your vinaigrette. I typically add a little honey to my vinaigrette. And I just add a little bit. I don't put a lot, just a couple splashes, because I can always add more when I'm finished with the vinaigrette. I can't take away, so once it's too sweet, it does it no good. I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. Dijon mustard, it has that nice flavor of wine and that mustard flavor, so it kind of reacts. So I'm probably going to add a little bit more. It's a heaping teaspoon here for that. If you want to add a little bit more mustard. It also helps emulsify your vinaigrette, especially if you're not putting any eggs in there to help the emulsification with it. And we're going to talk about eggs and vinaigrettes in a little bit. And again, there's always these rules that these French chefs talk about, that they like putting garlic in all their vinaigrettes. They like making their vinaigrettes without an egg. Again, it's about what you like. how the body is. If you like a light body versus a heavy body in your salad. Now again, you don't want a very heavy body. Like if you had a really nice light mesclun mix, do you really want to toss that with a very heavy blue cheese dressing, thick chunks of blue cheese? No, because it's just going to weigh it down and flatten it out. That's why light vinaigrettes are made. So again, you see the 2 vinegars mixed, a little bit of honey, some Dijon mustard. Now again, you don't have to add garlic to it, a little bit of shallot. You can finely dice a little shallot to it. Now, if you're going to blend this vinaigrette, which we're going to show you in a little bit, you don't need to chop it up. You just, you can just have it loose. You chop this up a little fine. Shallot is the flavor in onion. Gives it a little sweetness also to it. A little good flavor to it. Now again, if you're in a rush, you can just mix the vinegars and oils together, a little salt and pepper and a pinch of sugar, and literally could take you 2 minutes to make a vinaigrette. And it saves you a lot of money. So I'm going to stir this in because again, when you're emulsifying, you add your acid, you add all your flavors first. I'm going to just do a pinch of black pepper and salt to start. Now I like cracked black pepper. It gives it some nice bold flavor. Okay, I don't like using jarred pepper or white pepper. I like to have the fresh. And then a little bit of sea salt, just lightly dusted, just a pinch. And then I'm going to come over here and grab my olive oil. Now, again, you're going to hear the French and Italian says it has to be extra virgin for that rich, thick flavor, and heavy flavor to it. Again, I'm looking at what I'm cooking with it. What's going on the sides? How much boldness do I want? Now, if I'm looking for something lighter so it doesn't counter-react or flavor whatever toppings I'm putting on it, if I'm just not doing anything, I'm just using just plain mesclun mix or spinach or just kale, I'm not adding any toppings to my salad, then okay, extra virgin olive oil is fine. Now, I'm not going to sit here and debate other chefs and talk about what they like or what they don't like. All I know is through my 30 years of experience is what I'm used to eating with and what complements. Now again, when doing this, I like to get a little towel and put it on the bottom so it doesn't move around too much. And then I'm going to emulsify. And emulsification is blending, okay? Combining, immersion, okay? So slowly pour it, a little bit at a time, okay? Again, we're going about 2.5 to 1. Now again, if you have extra and it sits around, it's going to break. It's always going to break. And you're going to see the separation of this. And that's just typical. So, as I show you, this is what it is right there. You have a nice blended vinaigrette. You're going to taste it, make sure it's what you're looking for. A little tasting spoon, mix it around. Beautiful. Now, I'm going to show you the difference. We're going to throw a little bit of this on the plate. See how nice that is? Now, when you're done with this, I would suggest investing into some mason jars. Okay, I'll take a nice mason jar here, and when I'm done, I'm not going to leave it in a bowl. I'm going to leave it in the mason jar, pour it in there, okay, and then I'm going to take it, leave it in the refrigerator the next couple of days, and when I need it, because it will separate, you know, within the next hour, by the morning you come in, you can see the oil on top, the vinegar's on the bottom. So you're going to take it, and you're going to shake it up real well, and it's going to come back together. And right when you shake it, that's when you toss it in your salad. So you'll take your nice greens here. I'll take a little spinach with some mesclun. You have some frisee, some red oak here. And you're going to toss your vinegar over the top. It should be nicely seasoned. And there you go. Nice vinaigrette there. Look at that salad. So put that salad right there on the plate here. You can see it. Okay, so that's a nice light house vinaigrette that we made. And you know, the combination of the red vine vinegar and the balsamic vinegar and the honey, and you just see I didn't put that much honey, but it was just the right amount of sweetness. Now, I'm going to show you another technique if you're looking for a little bit more creaminess and boldness. So without adding anything to make it more creamy, and if you didn't want to shake it in a shaker, you can always take an egg yolk. I would take an egg yolk. So, oops, take this out. So I'll take the egg yolk, just drop it in there. Now again, it's like when you're blending the vinegars and the oils, it's like blowing up the egg yolk into a balloon. We're going to take the rest of this vinaigrette real quick right now. I throw it in there. Now you're going to see the consistency of this binding itself. Now when they tell you about creaming, they're not really adding cream to it. Now look at this. Look at the creaminess of that vinaigrette. The same thing with just an egg yolk. Look at the difference. Okay. Look at that vinaigrette. Okay. Now that's going to hold in your refrigerator all week. And it's going to stay like that. And you won't have to shake it. Next, let's just throw some greens in here again. And we're going to take some of the blender emulsified right there. And we're going to toss it. And that's where you get the creaminess. See the oil on that one and the vinegar separating versus this one. Now again, it's the texture. If I was in a hotel and restaurant and I had to produce 100 salads all at once for a catering event, I don't have the time to sit there and shake and watch the vinaigrette separate on itself. I'm going to blend it up so it holds and it stays together, because most people at the table can't shake their vinaigrette. If it's on the side or if it's on top, it's falling apart and one part has oil, one part has vinegar. So this leaves it with more consistency. Okay. Also, when you're making your vinaigrette, if you wanted to, you can get yourself a nice plain. So when you have the vinegar inside the vinaigrette, so if I have my vinaigrette right here, and I want a little citrus flavor to it, instead of adding pure lemon juice or lime juice, I would take a little plain here and just throw a little bit of zest in there, as you can see. So then you can get a little bit of the zest and get that flavor of the lemon without having to put lemon juice in it. Or if you're going to have that more refreshing flavor. And it's going to give it a little kick to it. Again, also when you're making your vinaigrette, if you want a little chili flavor to it, Tabasco is basically red chilies with vinegar. So again, you have your acid vinegar. So you can add a couple splashes of vinegar to it, Tabasco, and you mix it in, and it gives it that nice spicy flavor to it. My spoon, taste it, and just the right amount of kick. Okay, thank you, and that'll be the show for today. Look me up at sustainableculinarySolutions.com. Nice to see you, and next time we'll be talking about dressings. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.